Welcome to Arkansas Wildlife. This week's show, all about the eastern wild turkey here in the natural state. We're going to go up to the Ozark National Forest and try to trap some turkeys under a rocket net as part of a research project that will answer questions about wild turkeys in Arkansas and help us make better management decisions into the future. A little later in the show, we're going to take a wild turkey into the kitchen and cook a dish called pavo del monte and chak. But first, we're headed into the woods as my quest for an Arkansas gobbler continues this week. All that and this week's winner of a free hunting and fishing license right after this break. Arkansas Wildlife is brought to you in part by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Right stuff, low price, every day. Academy. We're going to go turkey hunting today, but this is going to be a pretty sad story. So grab a box of tissues and get ready to lament the tale of a woeful turkey hunter. Better get these guns up. Man, this is going to happen pretty fast, we think. This story really begins 2 turkey seasons ago, spring of 2015. My friend Joel Tevetin was my realtor. My wife and I were shopping for houses. Joel was showing us a house one day and was talking about going turkey hunting later that weekend. And come to find out, he didn't have a turkey call. He was going on a new piece of property that his dad had recently purchased. It was their first turkey season there. I loaned him a call, and Joel was successful that first year, which made me pretty envious since I have been trying to kill a turkey for about 16 years now, unsuccessfully. I went up with Joel to that property later in the season in 2015. Didn't have any luck. Fast forward to the 2016 season and went out with him again. We heard a few birds gobbling on the roost that morning. Couldn't get any of them to respond. So we went and set up in a field where he had seen the turkeys, where he had killed a turkey in the past actually. And we had quite a few hens come up and check out the decoy right there in front of us, but no gobblers that day. So another turkey season came and went without yours truly getting his gobbler. As you may know, the season opened on Monday this year. We went up on Sunday. I started getting text messages from Joel about 8:15 that morning. He had heard some birds gobble, but more importantly, he was seeing 2 gobblers strutting together within steps of his cabin. He sent me one picture of a bird fanned out, and it was so close that all you can see in the foreground is the rear quarter panel of his Z71 pickup. The text messages on that Sunday before the season opener keep coming. Multiple pictures of birds. He is telling me that he is trapped in the cabin. He can't leave because he doesn't want to spook the birds. And there's 2 of them, both mature gobblers. He has even named them Thin Beard and Thick Beard. Both long beards, but one of the beards was Wispier Thin Beard, and he said that one had my name written all over it. We got up there about 4:45 Sunday afternoon. Joel is still texting. The gobblers are in the field. He said, "You're going to see them when you come in." And we drove through the field, headed to the cabin. Sure enough, both gobblers were there along with a couple of hens. But they didn't seem real bothered by us as we drove through. They just didn't seem real concerned about us. So, I mean, I'm really excited at this point and thinking, you know, finally, I'm going to get a turkey. This is finally going to happen.
That's a good sign of them right there.
We cooked some dinner on the grill that night, sat around the campfire, had a good time, made a game plan for the next day. You know, Joel had suggested that he really thought we'd have a chance to double on these turkeys. Joel had been watching these birds all day Sunday, so we really didn't think it was going to be real difficult. He'd kind of patterned them. They were conditioned to, the vehicles being there by the cabin. We had our game plan, went to bed Sunday night, got up Monday morning and set out for the hunt.
Well, should we go on and go down to our spot?
We got settled into our spot, heard the birds gobble a couple of times after flying down from the roost. I had just had enough time to kind of get my call spread out. We got a little piece of camo put up in front of us, maybe 3 or 4 minutes, and Joel says, here they come, 2 gobblers.
We got 2 coming, Scotty.
I made a couple little soft clucks, one little series of yelps. We had a decoy out in front of us, about 15 to 20 steps, and these birds are headed straight to it in a hurry.
They are approaching rapidly. Better get these guns up. Man, this is gonna happen pretty fast, we think.
I got my gun up on my knee, get ready, encourage Joel to do the same.
You better get that gun up in place, man. Because if you try to move when they get close.
Man, before you know it, I've got Thin Beard, as Joel called it, about 15 steps in front of me, inspecting the hen decoy, and I'm just waiting for him to tell me I'm ready because I've got a bead on this turkey. Well, about a minute passes, and I'm like, Joel, are you ready yet? I mean, let's do this. And he says he doesn't have a shot because the thick beard had stopped about probably 20 steps short of the decoy, still easily within range, 20 or 25 steps, but Joel had a little piece of brush between him and the bird, and he was afraid to take the shot. But he's saying, don't worry, if they leave, they're gonna come back. They were here all day yesterday. So we waited. Thickbeard kind of made a big wide loop about 50 yards out. Joel thought it was too far for a shot. The birds went on down the field, and although he thought they would come back, they never did. We sat there for about 7.5 more hours and got interest from a few hens, a couple of which were dusting right there not far in front of us. It turned into a long and fruitless day, and I still didn't get my first turkey. Deep in the natural state's Ozark and Ouachita Highlands, wildlife researchers are using science to help the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission gain a better understanding of the state's wild turkeys.
We're trying to identify the survival and harvest rate of turkeys in the Ozarks and the Ouachitas, primarily on public property, so that we can set hunting regulations more accurately.
Since achieving a high water mark of about 20,000 turkeys in the late 1990s and early 2000s, Arkansas turkey hunters have been taking fewer and fewer birds, with the harvest bottoming out at less than 7,000 in 2011. The Arkansas Game and Fish Commission adopted a more conservative season structure in recent years and also implemented a regulation that prevented adult hunters from taking juvenile male turkeys known as jakes.
What we're looking at is the effects of the no jake regulation to see how many jakes are actually carried over from year to year.
With the new jake harvest policy, they said we want to track survival, make sure that survival rates and recruitment rates of the jakes into the 2-year-old population are at levels that they expect them to be. Are we increasing the 2-year-old age class of male turkeys? That's what we want. We want more male turkeys in the 2-year-old age class. You hear more gobbling that way. Hunters are more satisfied because they're hearing more gobbling. They got a better opportunity to harvest a bird.
In addition to leg bands, 60 turkeys each year are outfitted with a transmitter that allows researchers to track the bird's movements. Future research projects will use that information to determine which habitat types best support the birds.
These radio transmitters provide an enormous amount of data. We're getting 5 GPS location points for each bird per day. We're getting all this huge amount of movement data so we can learn about the ecology of the animal, how they're moving, what sort of things on the landscape is influencing them and their movement patterns. And those sort of things that are influencing their movement patterns, does that impact their survival rates? Do they have lower survival because of certain management, or higher survival because of certain management activities?
Prescribed fire, things like that, we're going to be able to look at, where these turkeys go if they come back and use that area pretty quickly after it's been burned.
It's all valuable information for wildlife managers, but collecting it isn't easy.
There's hundreds of man-hours from Game and Fish staff all across the state, U.S. Forest Service staff, and then our staff with the Division of Ag. Tracking, monitoring trail cameras, tracking these turkeys, trying to figure out their movements, trying to get them on bait, consistently enough that we can actually put a net over top of their head.
It's a lot of effort and time put in per bird for certain.
Pedro Ardapple oversees the field work for this project as part of his master's degree program at the University of Arkansas at Monticello.
Go out, look for turkey sign though, put a game camera, and then put feed in front of it, cracked corn primarily. Set up our cameras, everything, come back about every 2 days and check them, rebait if we need to. And then once we get birds coming in consistently, we go set up our nets. It's pretty much a heavy gauge fish net with 3 vented pipe bombs attached, and we use just a rocket charge to propel it. And it carries the net right out over top of the birds, and go run out and grab our birds, wrap them up, band them, put transmitters on them if we need to, and release them as fast as we can.
Of course, things don't always work quite that flawlessly in the field.
It's hours of waiting. A lot of times we'll get up 3:30, come up, set up our nets, be in the blind before light, and sometimes we sit till 6 o'clock in the evening and never catch.
The long hours of tracking, baiting, and waiting on turkeys comes down to a payoff that's over in a flash. But the information gleaned through this project will help turkeys and turkey hunters for years to come.
Ultimately, the real intention of this project is to provide information that's going to allow the AGFC to better manage our resource for the public.
We've been turkey hunting on today's show, and now we're gonna take turkey into the kitchen. We're gonna cook a dish called pavo del monte and chak. This is out of a cookbook called Yucatan. We're gonna get right to it, do some stuff on the grill, do some stuff in the kitchen. Not the easiest recipe in the world, but we're gonna walk you through it step by step. You gotta brine the turkey. We just used a simple salt and sugar brine and water, some other spices. The key ingredient to this, you can see we've got, it's red. It's achiote paste. This is a paste made out of anise seeds and some other things. We've enriched it with some other spices, and we've got this kind of barbecue sauce consistency, and that's what we marinated the turkey in for about 6 or 8 hours. We're gonna put it on the grill. Also gonna grill some tomatoes, onions, and garlic that are gonna be part of our recipe a little bit later. Okay, we've got the PK 360, proudly made here in Arkansas, all fired up. We're gonna char grill the turkey as well as char some tomatoes, onions, and garlic. All we're looking to do with this, we're not trying to cook the turkey completely. We're just going to get a kind of brown the outside layer. And we're going to finish it by braising it and also in the broth itself. The other thing, we're charring our vegetables because you're going to notice throughout there's a lot of spices, herbs, vegetables, really an earthy recipe, if you will, that we're doing with this wild turkey today. All this stuff is going to be cooked multiple ways throughout this recipe. This is just the first step. About 3 to 5 minutes on this side of the turkey. Our tomatoes, onions, garlic starting to get good and charred. And that's really about it for now. The turkey is not completely cooked yet, you can tell, but we don't want it completely cooked. We're just trying to get some nice grill marks on it, and then we're gonna finish it inside in the broth. That's the first step. Now we're gonna go inside and make the chak or red broth part of this recipe. Back inside, we're gonna start to build our chak or red broth, and we're gonna start with what's called a sofrito, the flavor base for this red broth. And we're gonna start with our grilled tomatoes, onions, and garlic. We're gonna saute that in a couple of tablespoons of fresh lard. That's been cooking 3 or 4 minutes. We're gonna add a tablespoon of Mexican oregano. Then we're going to add what we call a recado, which is basically just a spice blend. We're gonna put a teaspoon of that. Our last herb is epazote. This is dried epazote. We're gonna put about a teaspoon of that in there. Our sofrito is completed now, and we're gonna just set that aside off the heat. We're gonna put it in the food processor with some other ingredients and make a fine paste. The next step is gonna be to take that grilled turkey, cover it with some water in our stock pot, and start another aspect of the broth going. All right, we've got our turkey from the grill, and we're just gonna put these pieces into our stock pot here and cover with 9 cups of water and get that simmering. We're gonna let that boil and then reduce it to a simmer, and that's gonna cook for 20 or 30 minutes. But while the turkey is finishing in the water, creating more of a broth, some of the flavor enhancements from the sofrito and some other ingredients, we're gonna process in a blender or food processor and then add that back to this as well. We've got our sofrito in here into the food processor. To that, we're gonna add 1 chipotle pepper and adobo. This is the peeled garlic that we roasted the entire head on the grill earlier. And then the last ingredient is gonna be chicken stock, basically the powdered version. We're gonna put a couple of tablespoons of that, and then mix all this stuff up really well. And the last thing we're gonna add to it is this recado rojo. We're gonna add 5 tablespoons of this to our flavor base here for the broth. And this is where a lot of the flavor comes from. That's all mixed together. We're gonna take this and add it to our stock with the turkey and water over here on the stove. So we'll add this paste into our turkey broth here, and then we're gonna let that cook, for another 10 or 15 minutes. All right, I've checked the temperature of the turkey and it's reached 160 degrees. It only took about 15 or 20 minutes of the turkey in the broth. So we're gonna go ahead and take it out, and we're gonna tint it with aluminum foil while we cook the broth for another 10 or 15 minutes, just to let those flavors blend and meld really well in there. And look at that, man, it's looking beautiful. Our broth has finished cooking about 30 minutes, so we're gonna take it and run it through a strainer. We're gonna put about 6 cups of it in this, and then the other 2 cups in our smaller measuring cup over here. We've strained our broth, so we've got a pretty smooth liquid here. We're gonna add the 6 cups of it back to our stock pot, and we're gonna let that start to warm up because we want it to come to a boil. We're gonna do medium heat to start with. And then we're gonna take our other 2 cups and take 3/4 of a cup of masa harina. And this is gonna serve as a thickening agent, but you really wanna be slow when you add this. So just a little bit at a time, constantly whisking so we don't form any lumps. We're just gonna keep doing that until all of it's incorporated. And when it is, we're gonna bring the entire stock pot of broth to a boil for just a second. When it starts bubbling good, then we'll lower the heat and let it simmer for 10 minutes and be ready to plate. Okay, our broth is finished, thickened up with the masa. We've got our turkey that's been resting over here. We're gonna cut it into some small pieces. Take those into our bowl here. Ladle this nice thick chak or red broth over it. And, oh man, quite a bit of effort. Some unusual ingredients that go into this, but when it all comes together in this spoon, in this bowl, well worth it.
Arkansas Wildlife presents the Watch and Win giveaway. During each episode of Arkansas Wildlife, we'll give away an Arkansas resident hunting and fishing license, a $35.50 value provided by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Visit the Arkansas Wildlife webpage at agfc.com/Arkansas Wildlife TV and click on the Watch and Win icon to enter. This week's winner is Lynette Dudley from Alexander. Congratulations and thanks for watching.